The Alter Rebbe is teaching us, the Beinani, to be, the B-I-T, Beinani in training, how to have self-mastery over thought, speech, and action. And he gave two different methods. First method was from chapters 9 through 17, how the mind has dominion over the heart. And with the power of the mind, when you infuse it with lots of Torah study, knowledge and awareness of God, you can have dominion over your heart. And you could always be master over every action, every word that you express, and even every thought that you willfully think. And then he gave another method called the Ava Mesuteres, the hidden love that we have. That's a part of us. We don't create it through our minds and the awareness that we have in our minds, but we have it because that's the nature of the godly soul, that it is bound up in one with God and it wants to be connected and not disconnected for no reason. Not for the grand prize, not for the prize it's going to win in, the world to come, but just because that's its nature, to be bound up. So when we come and become attuned to that, aware of it, and allow that to become our reality, then we'll always connect. And we will never disconnect. Finished. Could go home now. But we're here. The Alter Rebbe now brings us the next teachings. Why? It's because what he taught till now is when everybody is on an equilibrium, that you go, straight through life in a very simplistic, I don't know if simplistic is the right term, but in a easy treading of life, and therefore you can have mind dominion over the heart, and you can find your inner heart's love, the hidden love, and express it. But we know life is different, right? Well, tonight's game, there won't be curveballs, but in baseball, they call it a curveball. Life throws a curveball to us, or God throws a curveball to us. And, things change up. We don't live life on that equilibrium. Therefore, we can always access our mind to have dominion over our heart. Life is ups and downs. And because of those ups and downs, right? So tonight, there'll be those who will be on a high because they're going to be victorious. But they're going to have their down. Because they're human like the rest of us. Comes the Alter Rebbe in chapter 26, and how we're going to deal with that. Right? The downs are downers that are going to bring a sadness to us. Says the Alter Rebbe, this must be made known, a cardinal principle. What's that cardinal principle? Just as it is with a victory in a physical opponent that you are battling against. Yeah. How is the defensive lineman going to be victorious to get to his goal, to knock down the quarterback? He could be strong and mighty. I must tell you. Actually, okay, at the end of the class, I'll share it with you. So, that when I went to the Super Bowl with the Rebbe's blessings. Remind me. You remind me, okay? All right. But let's first do this. So in a victory of a physical opponent, two people are fighting each other. One is striving to fell the other, and one is stronger than the other. But today that person might be sluggish. They're just not on their game. Even though they might be stronger because of their sluggish, maybe because they had a fight with a loved one. They're not feeling the power in the moment. They lose the fight. Right? So likewise, we have a battle. Chapter 9, if you remember, we learned life's a battle. God didn't promise a rose garden. He promised us Life is a challenge, is a battle. As a matter of fact, the more you recognize it's a battle, the more freedom of choice you have to engage in the battle. But life's a battle between the godly soul and the animal soul. If you are feeling sluggish, if you're feeling because of sadness, you are down. You're down. What's going to happen? You're not going to be able to struggle with your issues, with the things that you need to deal with. You will fail. You'll lose the battle. So what you need to have is alacrity. And where do you get alacrity? Swiftness from, right? Just as in the battle. Right? If you have that swiftness, if you have that sense of assurity, if you're, why? Because you're full of joy. Why are you full of joy? Because you have no trace of worry and sadness in the world. Right? Because you're a believer in God. So you don't have a trace of worry or sadness. Therefore, that brings you to joy. That joy brings you to swiftness, alacrity. And therefore, whatever you need to battle, engage in, you're going to battle and engage in, and be on your game, and be victorious. So that's the issue here. How do we get there? How do we maintain that happiness? It's not because you got something, a big winnings, and therefore you're on top of the world. Tomorrow you won't have something that you want, and you'll be on the bottom of the world. So, the verse says by King Solomon in Mishlei, Proverbs, he says, in every sadness, there will be a profit, which means there's some kind of advantage that is from sadness. But what is it saying? There's no inherent value in sadness. There's only a value in sadness because of what comes out of it. Which we'll see what that means, okay? In other words, we don't mean, we're going to make distinction over here. The sadness is that when you feel you're brokenhearted over a certain situation, and you feel the sense of bitterness of it, right? Now, why should this lead you to joy? It's because we're talking about that you did something not right. You did something wrong. And therefore you have a broken spirit, a broken heart. You did something wrong. And now what did you do? You worked on it. You dealt with it. And you dealt with it with that broken heart. I'm going to come back to that and what it means that you dealt with it, and then that leads you to joy. But before that, there's other things that we have a broken heart for. What do usually people have a broken heart? And that they have, anxiety, they have worries. For what? Your health, your financial situation, all of that, which is essential, your children, right? All of that is essential to life. And that can bring us sadness. So how do you deal with that? Says the Alter Rebbe, as our sages gave us advice, just as one recites a blessing for good fortune, Atayvu Meitiv, when you have good fortune, you bless God and you thank Him. Guess what? When you have misfortune, you also bless God. Right? It's a different blessing. It's Baruch Dain HaEmes. In fact, we have someone who's sitting Shiva here in a family that's sitting Shiva here in Chabad house right now. And when we did the funeral, tore their garments, and they made the blessing, tearing their garments, which is a reflection of the torn heart. They made the blessing, Baruch Dain HaEmes, that God is a true judge. Right? Even in misfortune, we're blessing God, praising Him. Right? Because this too is good. How's it good? So explains the Alter Rebbe, everything comes from God, but they come from two basic worlds. Everything comes from above, from God. The question is where it comes from. So there's what's called the hidden world, Alma Discasia, and the revealed world, Alma Disgalia. They make up the four-letter name of God. Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey. The hidden world is Yud and a Hey. The revealed world is a Vav and a Hey of God's name. What comes first is Yud and a Hey, the hidden world. It's higher than the revealed world. When we think about it, of course, God is beyond us. So whatever is revealed to us is a limitation. Whatever is not revealed to us and is greater, that's hidden from us, well, God is, in the end, hidden from us. He's hidden in the sense that he's so infinitely greater than us that is beyond us, right? But everything that comes from God is coming from those two worlds based on God's name. So if it's coming from a revealed world, it means the way it's expressed in this world is revealed goodness. But that's from the latter letters of God's name. If it's something that is painful, something that is to the eye, the naked eye, not something that you probably really would choose, right? It's painful, it's hurtful, it's painful. Actually, it's coming from a higher world. It's coming from a higher place in God. And what God is doing then is bringing the pain, not because he wants to pain us, but he wants us to fix something. He's chastising us. And who do you chastise in life? The people you love. Because it matters to you more. The guy who lives on a block over, you chastise his children, or you chastise your own children, because you care and love them. So you want them to be decent, good people, right? So you chastise them. The ones you love, you chastise. I'm talking about in an appropriate way, not in an inappropriate way. I'm not talking about, because you've, you had a bad day at work, so therefore you come home grumpy, and therefore that's why you chastise. No, we're talking about God, right? And in the metaphor, we're talking about a good person. They will chastise the one that they love, the one that's closer. So when it comes from a hidden world and we feel the pain of something, it's God chastising us. That's what it is. So now the question is, how do you take that? Well, it depends. If your relationship to God is more important than comfort, right, then what will you do? You'll accept the chastise, and you'll do whatever you need to do to fix whatever needs to be fixed, right? Like when you have a pain in your tooth, it's God chastising you. You didn't take care of your tooth, so here's some pain. Go to the dentist, take care of your tooth. Okay, that's a physical thing on how to fix. But when we have lack, well, that's actually the example here because we're talking about health, let's say a tooth, whatever it is, livelihood. So if we recognize firstly that it's coming from God, and it's really only good, but it's coming from a higher place. It's like, is the sun good? Well, of course. But when it's a really sunny day and you look at the sun, it's kind of blinding, right? It's kind of blinding. It's too powerful. So that's what's happening. It's God's light that is coming down to us from the hidden world that is too powerful, and therefore we experience it as misfortune. Is it misfortune? No. It's sunlight. It's not misfortune. We just experience something that feels like misfortune. But it's coming from God, a hidden world. It's actually coming from a deeper place of showing greater love. In the chastising that brings to what we experience as a misfortune. So when we understand that, what will happen? We will accept it lovingly and deal with it. Deal with it. In other words, okay, I've got something here I got to fix. I've got something I got to do. Not bemoan. Not be, oh, look, that's another crummy day out there. You know, no, it's crummy inside us. That's why we say it's a crummy day out there. Right? Fear, knowing that that day came from God, that thing came from God, that experience, it came from God, that what naturally we would feel as misfortune, painful, comes from God, it won't make you sad. It's not possible to make you sad. Pain does not equal sadness. Pain means it hurts. Okay? So it just means we got to do something about it. But when you understand that it's coming from God, so therefore you will be acting with alacrity to deal with it. With that swiftness. Why? Because you have joy. You didn't lose your joy. The moment you lost that joy is because it didn't come from God. In my awareness, I don't feel it came from God, right? I lose the joy. What happens? I'm weighted. I feel heavy. I'm saddened. And become a victim of the circumstance. In the end, I'll probably blame God for it, right? And I mean, that's what most people do. And as a result, they're miserable. And here's a person who's not going to be miserable. Because they recognize that this is coming from God, from the hidden world, where I'm not experiencing it as fortune. It's misfortune, I'm experiencing it. But that misfortune will be lessened tremendously. Why? Because if you have an awareness, it's coming from God, and therefore it's coming from God, and no, it's not going to bring me, it doesn't bring me down. That doesn't mean, by the way, you're not feeling broken, or you're feeling, not broken, broken is the wrong word, that you're not feeling pain, right? Someone passed, a loved one passed away. So it doesn't mean you don't feel pain, right? Of course. But at the same time, it's not going to make you despondent. I did a funeral. I did a funeral a couple of weeks ago. And about a mother having to bury a child. And I'm not, and this is no judgment on the mother at all, God forbid. Not a judgment on anybody. It was just, an appreciation of if it's not something you need now, then if it can wait. Okay? Appreciate that. We're learning right now. So, and again, it's not a judgment, but it's about for ourselves how to live our lives. It's not about judging anybody else. But and if I were in her shoes, she lost a son, and she was completely despondent, completely. It's understandable, yet it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. So, says the Alter Rebbe that someone who really, believes that this is coming from God, and therefore ultimately it's good, and that's why you make the blessing Baruch Dayan Emes, right? That God is a true judge, and when someone passes away, you're accepting the judgment. Yes, it's painful. And by the way, what should that pain lead to?
Action.
Right. What kind of action? Doing something for that soul that no longer is here. They can't give tzedakah, so you give tzedakah in their merit, right? They can't, put on tefillin, so go put on tefillin with another Jew that didn't put on tefillin, right? To make up for, this person now that isn't putting on tefillin, right? Whatever. I'm just giving examples. Make a Torah study learning, right? In their honor. You're going to do something. Does that mean the pain goes away? No, it doesn't. Not necessarily. I don't know, who says the pain should go away? Maybe the pain should be there, that it just propels you to do more and more. But we in Western society equate pain with bad. Why? Because I don't want it. But it's not bad. Again, if your tooth is hurting, that's a good sign that you need to fix it, because if it didn't hurt, it would just decay and you'd lose your tooth. So in order that you shouldn't lose your tooth and you should fix it, God brings pain upon the individual, so it just is a sign to fix it. So that's all the pain and all the misfortune that we deal with in our lives. And we recognize that it's coming from Hashem. We're going to deal with it. And therefore, that person becomes, is worthy. The sun emerging in its might in the world to come, it'll emerge for them the light of God in a way that is more beautiful than ever. Continues, the Alter Rebbe, and says, what if the sadness is now connected, though, with not things, essential things in life that you're lacking, health, financials, family issues, but it's connected with heavenly matters. In other words, that you feel, I'm not really the chassid I should be. I'm not really, living up to what I should be. Says the Alter Rebbe, if those thoughts are occupying you during worldly affairs, like when you're doing, during your regular routine of business and the like, and you're feeling a sadness or anxiety about your spiritual standing. Oh, you might think that that's good. Says the Alter, no, it's coming from the evil inclination. Like, where would it come to you in the middle of your mundane affairs, let's say at business, working, right? That all of a sudden you're thinking of, not really such a tzaddik, I'm not really living up to what I should be, and I'm feeling that's coming from a good place. It's coming from the evil inclination, right? Because it's so out of context that in the middle of your mundane affairs, you're feeling this godly feel that, I'm just not good enough. No, it's not coming from a good place. As a matter of fact, it's only trying to bring you down, that feeling. Mm-hmm. It's trying to bring you down. So what should you do when that feeling comes to you? So you know what? Now's not the proper time to deal with it. Let me set aside a time, when I can focus and deal with it with my spiritual standing, right? An opportune time to reflect on what things that I need to improve in my life. And then when I do that, because then I'm doing it in a calmness of mind. That's the importance over here. When it just comes to me, that feeling, I'm feeling, now that's the Yitzhar. What it's trying to do is make you feel lousy, that you feel guilty. And from no one wants to feel bad about themselves. So therefore, it'll get you just to comfort yourself. So you go for comfort food, you go binge on Netflix, go watch the game, and so on, so I could feel good, because I don't want to feel bad about my spiritual standing. That's a sign that it's not coming from a good place. If the feeling comes, I say, okay, you know what? Yeah, there's stuff I gotta deal with. I'm gonna deal with it, 5 o'clock today, or 10 o'clock tonight before I go to sleep. I'm gonna think through the day and what happened now, and try to deal with it. And then, with a contrite heart, do tshuva on whatever I need to do tshuva, and remove. And then, after doing tshuva, after penitence, right, and fixing what I got to fix, guess what? Remove it from your heart. Any sorrow that you have in your heart, and know that God is pardoning you for what you did. As we say 3 times in davening, Slach lanu, Rav Lisoyach, that Hashem is abundantly forgiving. Then remove it. And with this concludes chapter 26. The Alter Rebbe says, this is what we said in the beginning. We quoted from King Solomon, that there is a value in sadness, that it has a profit. In and of itself, sadness has no value. The only time it has a value is when you are down because of your spiritual standing, and you feel bad about where you are spiritually, and you put aside a proper time to deal with it, and then move on. So the sadness brings a profit. What's the profit? The greater joy that comes after you dealt with your challenges and things in life, your spiritual standing. So here's the sadness that has a value only because of what comes out of it. What came out of the sadness? I dealt with my stuff. Face your stuff rather than stuff your face, right? As the old saying goes. Face your stuff. Face it, though, not in a moment where you're kind of feeling down and out, because then you're not going to own it properly. Set a proper time aside, and then think through what you did and how you could improve, what you need to fix. If there's someone you need to say sorry to, think it through in a calmness of mind. That's important. Not in when I'm feeling lousy about myself, because that you will not own it. You're just going to try to feel good, and therefore you're just going to binge on something to bring you a comfort. But once you've dealt with it, let go. Know that God is abundantly forgiving, and now you have to come back to what? Joy. It's actually a greater joy now. Why? Because you dealt with whatever you need to deal with. And that's the profit that comes from the sadness that King Solomon was speaking about in Proverbs. Because I dealt with it. That's very powerful.
You went to the Super Bowl?
Yes, first let's take the questions over here before I lose them. Yes, we'll tell the story, briefly at least. Thought I saw some questions. Lori, is prayer tzedakah a way to overcome a heavy heart? Absolutely. Yes, but for sure it is. But the Alter Rebbe is giving us an awareness, right? Those actions are great, and yes, do them. But that doesn't mean that your mindset and your attitude will be one of, overcoming the heavy heart. You might still have a heavy heart after you give tzedakah. The Alter Rebbe is teaching us on how inwardly we can come beyond it. Davida, how did David HaMelech have ultimate joy and gratitude to Hashem when his life was incredibly hard? Because hard doesn't mean bad. That's why he knows it coming from Hashem. So he understood that. And therefore,
I have a question.
Okay, then we went before. Your question we won't lose. I might lose it over here because I lose on the feed. Um, oh, Jeff sat next to a grandfather from Israel. He said he lost a grandson in Gaza 3 days ago. Ooh, when he was on his way to sit shiva with his family. But yet he showed, of course, saddened, but he had strength, joy in his strength. Yes, both things. They're not opposite each other. Yeah. Thank you, Jeff, for sharing. Joseph, do you have theories as to why some people feel more pain than others? Just the makeup of the soul. Yeah. Yes.
If we are feeling lousy and then we set aside, okay, I'm going to analyze this later, and then we go through that analysis later with a calm mind, and it's like we really can't find anything in particular to be the reason of why we're feeling it. Could we then should you keep looking and looking and looking until you find something, or at some point should you just say this is from the evil inclination?
Yeah, it's just the evil inclination is just trying to make you bring you down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's trying to remember it's a wrestling match. The metaphor, that's an important metaphor to recall. A wrestling match, and the way we win the wrestling match over the opponent from within is when we're not saddened. Otherwise, if you're down, you're heavy. When you're heavy, when you feel the heaviness of life, of things, then it's hard to battle. You don't have the strength, right? You don't have the strength. Yeah. Jeff, sometimes our pain comes as a result of poor decisions we made. Other times it's out of our control. How do we differentiate the two? Should we take time to ponder this? If so, how? So, even if we made poor decisions, right? The effect of that decision is now the hands of heaven. In other words, you made a decision to go right, and because of that, something happened in life. The fact that now you decided to go on that path, what you will have on that path is divinely orchestrated. So therefore, it's about how we deal with it. And likewise, whatever's out of our control, right? It doesn't matter. Whether we made the wrong decision, now we went down this road in life, but what's going to come on this road, that's divinely orchestrated, right? That's the key. That's divinely orchestrated. So both instances, there's really no distinction. It may feel different, but it isn't different. Yeah. You had something else you wanted to say?
No. Oh, okay. I'm waiting for chapter 27.
Yeah. Let's see. Let me just see over here. Oh. So it was the fourth time the Buffalo Bills were in the Super Bowl, 4 times in a row. This is, I think, 1993, 31 years ago. And my dear friend, Dr. David Lazarson, he said, we were working on a worldwide campaign at the time, World of Good. I made something called the Good Card. And so he wrote into the Rebbe, wanted to go to the Super Bowl because Dallas was playing against the Buffalo Bills, and Marv Levy, head coach, a Jewish head coach, who he had some contact with. As a matter of fact, he once tried out for the Buffalo Bills. And said, we want to bring the campaign of a world of goodness to Marv Levy, and if we can, promote the good card and doing goodness and kindness, basically, to bring Mashiach, final redemption. And he wrote into them and it gave my name because I was like leading that campaign. He didn't ask me. I just said, yeah, go. So whatever. I didn't think that I was going to go, but my wife said, no, go. So 31 years ago, right now, I was in the hotel. I forget the name of the hotel in Atlanta, Georgia, where the game was. That's where the game was. By the way, we didn't go to the game. We just went to inspire anybody we could. And it happened to be the Buffalo Bills and the Dallas Cowboys were in the same hotel. I was like a surprise. There's a lot of security there. Well, we snuck through the security. And I'm sitting there, and like we want to meet the players. We met a few players. I met Troy Aikman, as the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. And I gave him a good card, spoke to him about goodness and kindness. And it was, we tried to get to Marv Levy. Marv Levy, you have to understand the day of the game. I mean, the fact that we found a few football players was like, and there was security that there should be no one coming there to bother them, but somehow we got through. We just spoke to them about adding in their lives goodness and kindness. And to Marv Levy, we brought a pushka to give that everybody on the team should give charity. See, my friend wanted the Buffalo Bills to win because he's from Buffalo. And he tried out for the team many years before that. In any case, we tried to get to him, Marv Levy, no, because they're so focused, they're so concentrating on their day, and nothing could to derail them at all. They got to be really focused, right? And that's why you see how they pump each other up, just to get in fight mode, that they have joy. They have to have joy, because if they're going to be down in any way, forget it, right? They're going to lose. And even when they're losing, they can't be down. You see them, right? If the player feels down, it's over, right? They got to be upbeat. You see that clearly from the players. So Marv Levy, so we sent through an assistant coach. He did come to us. So he gave him the pushka. We gave him to speak to him, and we gave him the good cards to hand out to the players and increase in goodness and kindness. Tell you the truth, I don't know what happened with it. Somehow I doubt it got to them. Anyways, bottom line is the Buffalo Bills lost the fourth in a row. Marv Levy, if you're listening, I don't think you, listen, I have no complaints to you, but so, and we watched the game in the hotel. We didn't go to we didn't go to the game. I mean, we went there for a mission.